Jack Flaherty was on the mound again today against the Astros. Plus, we get to talk about the shortstop position and, yes, everyone's favorite whipping boy, Paul DeYoung, on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Haffern, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter at JD Sports Radio. Follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, available on YouTube. If you haven't seen us over there yet, come on by. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. That way you can interact with us. Hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. The Cardinals and the Astros met up again today. Aren't we? We're tired of seeing the same teams over and over, aren't we? Nationals, Marlins, Mets, Astros, over and over and over. Anyway, more Grapefruit League action today. But before we talk about today's game, let's do a quick recap about what happened on Wednesday because they got past the Mets by the score of 4-1 on Wednesday. Justin Verlander comes out, dominates the Birds, throwing 5 shutout innings. He strikes out 8, allows just 1 hit. How is this guy continuing to be better as he gets older? Like, how he does it is beyond me. There was a time that, we'd see something like this, performances like this, and you're like, PEDs, steroids. But I'm assuming that the testing is still going strong. And I think it's more that Verlander he's just a freak, man. Just an absolute freak. I mean, the Mets able to swap out DeGrom for Verlander this season. It's got to feel real nice considering the health issues that surround DeGrom every single season. Like, there's always that, is he going to pitch or not? Of course, the Mets did get the unfortunate news about Jose Quintana, who will be out until at least July with his rib issue. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows for the Mets just because they have Verlander on their team. But on this day, Verlander, he looked superb. He looked fantastic. So it's a good thing he was out of the game after the 5th inning. Boys were able to get the best of the Mets bullpen, scoring 2 in the 6th and 2 in the 7th to pick up their 10th Grapefruit League win. Dylan Carlson picked up a 2-out RBI double, did it from the left side again, which is great, to tie that game up at 1 apiece. And that was followed by a 2-out RBI double by Juan Yepes to give the Cards the lead. And then they went on to get the win. Shout out to our man, Victor Scott II, who picked up his first RBI of the spring. Way to go, Victor. Well done. Again, if you didn't see the interview that we did with Victor Scott last week, you should go check that out. It's under all of the different videos that we have there on our YouTube page. Now speaking about the Mets bullpen, big blow to them last night with the injury to their closer, Edwin Diaz, at the World Baseball Classic. We got more about that coming up later on in the show. I do want to point out that Cardinals prospect Connor Thomas looked the best he's looked all spring in this game against the Mets. He throws 4 shutout innings, allows 2 hits, strikes out 2. As far as the Cardinals bullpen goes, Drew Verhagen, who has looked strong and healthy this spring, he got touched up for his first run of the spring, a solo dinger on a breaking ball up in the zone. But other than that, you had Wilking Rodriguez, who keeps getting better. He whiffed 2 in a scoreless inning. Ryan Helsley does what Ryan Helsley does, and that's get punchies. He strikes out the whole side. All 3 of them, no problem. Hicks gives up a hit and a walk, but no runs. Chris Stratton, damn glad to meet you, 2 Ks in his clean inning of work to get the save. So another strong day from the bullpen. Now, prior to today's game, the Cardinals did make some roster moves. They've optioned Connor Thomas, who I just brought up, catcher Ivan Herrera, and outfielder Moises Gomez to the Memphis AAA roster. No surprises there with guys starting to return from the World Baseball Classic. At-bats are going to be at a premium, and they need to get to work at AAA. That's where they were going to go anyway. Totally fine with those moves. So that brings us into today's game against the Astros, and it was Jack Flaherty back on the bump for the 3rd start of the spring, and it wasn't great. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't great. He got into a bit of trouble in the first with a hit. Then he hits a guy, gives up another soft single into right field, and they actually would have gunned the guy at home plate, but Contreras couldn't handle the hop that came in, kind of skipped past him, and got through him to make it 1-0. I was a little surprised. They gave Contreras an error on that, which I feel like is a little touchy as far as errors goes, but whatever, spring ball. He then gets Abreu to ground out, and the next hitter bounces into an inning-ending double play. Could have been much worse, but he worked his way out of trouble, which you like to see. Then he cruises over the next couple of innings until the fourth when Jose Abreu hits an absolute missile over the left field wall. His second of the spring makes it 2-0. And then it's back-to-back singles, a walk, and then that was it for Jack for that particular inning because they end up bringing him back out in the fifth inning, which is totally legal. You can do that in spring training. He gets the first guy, but then a double, a ground out. Abreu comes up again, hits another double, making it 3-0, and that ends Jack's day altogether for real. This time, he did not come back after that one. Flaherty's final line today, 4 1/3, 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. And at times today, Jack was dealing. He was getting a lot of ground balls. Second and third innings, he was looking beautiful. Everything was nice and smooth, but Abreu just kind of had his number today. You know, it's not as if he got thrashed for like 10 runs over 3 innings or anything like that. So there is some good news. I do have some good news, though. Jack Flaherty, I don't see any updates. Still healthy. Jack Flaherty is still healthy, everybody. And that's what's most important coming out of this spring. I mean, I'd love to see some better results, but the fact that he's still healthy, that's great. Now 1-1, ERA of 3.97 this spring. He's got 10 Ks and 11 in the third innings, but he's also given up 13 hits. Probably got, 2 starts left before the regular season. So hopefully we can just get a better outing from Jack Flaherty his next time out on the mound. But I'm not going to say that this was like some devastating game that he looked trashy in because he didn't. He had his moments where he looked really, really good. And sometimes the hitters win. You just got to know that. Sometimes the hitters win. We can't expect these guys to go out there and have no hit ball every single time they take the mound. The pen, though, great again today. Allowed just 3 hits the rest of the way, no runs. The lefties were back out there today. They dominated. Zach Thompson, Andrew Suarez continued their scoreless springs with an inning each. Anthony Misevich and Packy Naughton also had shutout innings as the competition for bullpen spots continues to be a heated one, especially from the left-handed side. They've seen a lot of good stuff from them. I don't know what they're going to do as far as how many people they're going to keep as far as left-handers in the bullpen, how many they're going to send. I don't know what's going to happen. The competition continues. We talked more in depth about that in our last episode. So if you haven't checked that one out yet, you should probably do that. One spot where we know who the starter is going to be, that's the shortstop position. Tommy Edman's spot, but who's going to play when Tommy Edman doesn't play? Because there will be times when Edman is not on the field. We're going to talk about those options next on Locked On Cardinals. So the NBA season, it's continuing, obviously, but aren't we all into March Madness mode? Isn't that what's really going on here? You saw Virginia lose today. You saw Arizona lose to Princeton today. Crazy stuff going on. And with the college basketball tournaments underway, perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. All you got to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, which is safe, secure, and easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers and three-pointers drained, player props. You talk about their points, their rebounds, their assists. You've got exclusive bets like the 2x3, where you get 2 3-pointers scored in the first 3 minutes. That's something you can bet on. There's a lot of options out there for you. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay, which really makes the games more interesting. So don't miss out the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Starting shortstop Tommy Edman. He's back, ladies and gentlemen, from the World Baseball Classic after his time with Team Korea. They got eliminated in pool play. Edman didn't have a great few games with Team Korea, hit just 182 during the tournament, 2 for 11, couple RBIs. He is back with the Cardinals now and trying to get over the jet lag, which is an issue because he had to go all the way overseas. That's the thing, is like guys like Team USA and the guys that had to go down to Florida, big whoop. Tommy Edman and Lars Nootbaar are like, shoo, all the way overseas. So it's going to be a little more difficult for them to get reacclimated to things over here in the States. You know, he's adjusting to the clock, to coming back to the States and getting readjusted to our clock. We just sprung forward and, you know, it's just craziness. So it's going to be a couple days before he's back playing with the Cardinals, but that's fine. We've got patience. But it's been a kind of a blessing with Tommy being gone, not because we don't want to watch Tommy Edman play, but we got to see other options at the shortstop position when Tommy's going to inevitably need a day off, or he's going to play another position, or heaven forbid, he deals with an injury at some point. So we got to see these guys that could be the other options at shortstop play a lot more with Tommy Edman in the World Baseball Classic. Now, the main options that were behind him consisted of top prospect Mason Wynn, who you see on our screen here on YouTube. You've got the incumbent Paul DeJong, and we saw today Brendan Donovan playing shortstop. So who deserves to be the backup? Because honestly, the way this roster is shaping up, there isn't one specific person who is backing up anyone, really. I think it's just going to be a group effort, and it really says something about the guys that they have on this roster, that they have the flexibility to play multiple positions to help you win in multiple ways. Guys are playing all over the diamond. So let's start with Mason Wynn, since he's up on the screen here on YouTube. And he's one of the shiny new toys in the garage that can hit for power. 435-foot home run this spring. Good speed, stole a couple of bases, good glove. He's got that thunderbolt for an arm. If there was no Tommy Edman on this team, you might see Mason Wynn up on this major league roster. It could have happened because we've seen top prospects like Wander Franco and Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt Jr. making their debuts in the major leagues at 21 years old. And Wynn's going to be turning 21 in just a couple of days from now, 5 days from now, actually. He turns 21 on March 21st, but he hasn't played above Double-A yet. He's had a very good spring, and he's been an exciting talent to watch, no doubt. Making solid plays in the field, scorching throws across the diamond, stealing bases, even playing a little second base, which was kind of cool. And until recently, his batting average was well over 300. He's over his last 8, though, and that includes that 3 strikeout day against the Mets. So I don't think it's going to be Mason Wynn, but it's not because Mason Wynn has been doing anything wrong. It's just kind of like, you know, he's 20. You know, and he's going to be 21 here very, very soon. So, and you've got other guys on this roster like this guy, Paul DeJong. Now, he's the one who gets people really fired up, right? Because of how bad he's been at the plate since 2019. It hasn't been pretty. The Cardinals invested in him after his solid rookie season. At that time, it was the largest contract ever given to a player with less than a year of service time, narrowly edging the 6-year, $25 million guaranteed extension reached between the White Sox and shortstop Tim Anderson. They gave DeJong 6 years, $26 million with club options for 2024 and 2025. And that contract has just not worked out the way anyone has hoped. DeJong was second in the Rookie of the Year voting that year. Then he becomes an all-star in 2019, but since then he has spiraled down badly to where he was demoted to Memphis last season. John Denton from MLB.com did a write-up on DeJong and how this was going to be essentially a make-or-break spring for him. He had worked on his swing, made some adjustments, and was hoping that, you know, it would bring some good fortune, maybe change things a little bit for him, because we've seen him when he's been on. And he can hit for power. He's a solid glove, but he just hasn't been very good at the major league level the last few years. And this spring, it hasn't really been the swing that's the problem. Even though he's made these adjustments, he got rid of his stride, the big leg kick. That's not the problem. The problem is he can't stay healthy. He can't get on the field. He's been dealing with arm fatigue, and after that seemed to clear up a little bit. They started him at shortstop, and now he's got a back problem. He's been limited to just 19 plate appearances. He's 2 for 13 this spring. He's got 1 home run, which is an absolute bomb off the Nationals, off the batting eye. He's got 2 RBIs. Credit to him also, He has only struck out once this spring, and we usually give, at least I do, I give Paul DeJong a lot of grief because he strikes out a lot. It drives me bonkers. But only one strikeout this spring. He's walked 6 times, so those are good things. Those are positives. But he's still hitting 154. That's not going to get it done. And we know Brendan Donovan can play anywhere you need. And he was starting at shortstop on Thursday. He was 2 for 3 with a double, raising his spring average to 324. He's shown that extra pop that we've talked about. He, got a heavier bat. He's made a few minor adjustments at the plate, standing more upright. Leads the team in home runs this spring and RBIs, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs. Donovan's looked really, really good. And I know many of you want to ditch Paul DeJong. You want to ditch him. You just want to move on with our lives. And maybe in a way that can sort of happen because of these injuries that he's dealing with. So follow me here. With Edman back, Donovan doing his thing, and then Gorman having a solid spring as well. Maybe what the Cardinals need to do is start the season. You don't have to cut DeJong or anything like that yet, but you put him on the injured list. Put him on the injured list, okay? Let him get healthy. Let his arm get back to where it needs to be. Let his back heal. Have him do his rehab assignment, which would be down in the minor leagues. You can send him down there to Memphis. He can be the DH. He can play some shortstop. Mason Wynn can play a little second base, also DH some. And if DeJong starts to tear the cover off the ball and these adjustments and changes that he's made start paying dividends, you bring him back up and you see what you can do. But you don't have to. Here's the thing about Paul DeJong. You don't have to worry about starting him. Like when you bring him back up, if you bring him back up, he's just going to be a bench guy. He's not taking like a lot of at bats away from other people who might be deserving them. That's not his role anymore. But if he doesn't, if he heals up and he still stinks and he can't hit a lick, then you make a decision on him, whether you cut him loose, you trade him, whatever the heck you got to do, because I'm tired of worrying about the money when it comes to Paul DeJong. The money's already spent. You're not getting it back. So who cares about the money anymore? If he's not going to help you at the major league level, then you cut the cord. Cut it. And we all move on with our lives. Wynn should be your guy at Memphis this year. No doubt. Let him play short. Let him play second, but focus on shortstop mostly. That's where you want him. And if DeJong can't make it as the final bench guy on the Cardinals roster, then let's end the charade. Let's put an end to it that we think he might get better, because he hasn't for multiple years. This isn't like we're just giving him 2 months to figure it out and then we're cutting him loose. That's not he's had plenty of time to figure things out. Donovan should be your backup. You just plan out when Edman is going to get a day off so that Donovan can get his rest when he needs it. You got Gorman who can play second base. And we all live happily ever after. I don't understand why this is so difficult, that a young contract needs to stop being an excuse to keep someone on the team, even though they aren't contributing. It's got to stop. You need your top 26 players available, not your most expensive 26 players available. Whoever gives you a better chance to win needs to be on this roster. Bottom line. World Baseball Classic updates are coming up next, including every team's worst nightmare happening to the Mets and Team Puerto Rico, next on Locked On Cardinals. The World Baseball Classic has been a treat to watch. It really has. Seeing these guys compete for their countries and not a paycheck has been outstanding to watch. The energy at the ballpark, seeing these guys at the Tokyo Dome and down in Miami and in Arizona, fans losing their minds. Watching the games over in Tokyo are crazy. It always reminds me of Tom Selleck in the movie Mr. Baseball. Every single time, and it's cool. I love how much they get into it. And they're singing songs like while the play is going on. It's wild. And then, of course, you've got the crowds down in Miami, rooting for the Dominican teams and Puerto Rico and all their favorite guys. That was madness last night, watching that game with Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. The only knock against the World Baseball Classic, and you're hearing a lot of people talk about it, especially now, is the risk factor of guys getting hurt while playing that would hinder their availability for their major league rosters. And that situation came to fruition in heartbreaking fashion for the Mets and Team Puerto Rico on Wednesday night, after their closer, Edwin Diaz, closes out the game against the Dominican Republic. Crowds going wild. It's just an amazing scene of positivity and energy with the upset win there. The guys come out and celebrate the way most teams do after a big win. They start bouncing and they're cheering together. When out of nowhere, Edwin Diaz crumbles to the ground, had to be wheeled off the field in a wheelchair. Then it was announced today that he tore his patellar tendon in his right knee and will likely miss the entire season for the Mets. Just devastating news. And no matter what you feel about the Mets and their spending habits to try and win their first championship since 1986, you got to feel bad for Edwin Diaz and the team. That stinks, man. You never wanted to see injuries, and especially in such a freak manner. It's even worse that way. You're playing hard on the field and things happen. But when something as silly as just celebrating by jumping up and down after the game and then the knee just gives away, that's rough, man. That's a tough pill to swallow. So we feel bad. We certainly feel bad for Edwin Diaz and company. But it's one of the things with the World Baseball Classic, and it's picking up more steam now. Is they're like, people, it's an injury risk. I think it's stupid. They should be doing this after the season, not before it. I've enjoyed the WBC. I think it's been fantastic. So I don't want to see it go anywhere. Do we tweak when it's played? Maybe. As far as Cardinals players that are still in the WBC, they've all been able to avoid any injuries so far. Fingers crossed. Goldie Arenado, Michaelis, and Wainwright moving on with Team USA to the quarterfinals. They face Venezuela on Saturday night in Miami. Hey, shout out to Team Canada and our buddy Tyler O'Neill. Team Canada's out, by the way, but it's not because of Tyler O'Neill's lack of production. Bro Neal, all he did was hit .615 in their 4 games. 8 for 13, 5 runs scored, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs. He even walked 5 times. Let's hope that guy is the guy that we see this year in the outfield for the Redbirds. Healthy and just mashing the ball. And then, of course, we've got to talk about one Lars Nootbaar. Lars Nootbaar and Team Japan, they moved on after beating Italy earlier today. Newt, of course, has been a lightning rod of energy for the team and its fans. We know about the speeches. If you haven't seen those videos, hilarious stuff where he does the speeches in the dugout before they take the field, but he does them in English, so the translator is the one who has to relay everything, and you just hear, oh, like they all get excited at the same time. It's pretty cool. We know about the pepper grinder celebration, which has boosted sales in Japan of pepper grinders by 15%. That's what I read somewhere. I'm like, what? Is it really? That's crazy. By the way, how do we not have a Nootbaar or Cardinals pepper grinder giveaway at Busch Stadium this year? I feel like we're missing the boat on that one. On the field, though, Newt is getting it done. He's batting .368. He's their leadoff guy. 7 hits, 7 runs scored, 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and now he's even got his own noodles. You guys, they've got noodles for Lars Nootbaar. This Tokyo ramen shop offering a new dish called Nootbaar Noodles. It's available now. Limited time, obviously. This made me think, too. So I wonder if the Japanese community are going to start coming to more games in St. Louis after all of this, because we've seen how well they support their fan favorites over the years. You've had Ichiro, Hideo Nomo, Hideki Matsui, Masahiro Tanaka, Yu Darvish, and of course Shohei Ohtani. But wouldn't that be something if the Cardinals ended up picking up a boost in ratings and attendance because of the Newt factor at the World Baseball Classic? I think that would be awesome. And I think the Cardinals also need to start investing in not only the pepper grinders for us at the stadium, but also some Nootbaar noodles. You got to have at least one spot that has those available. That would be awesome, right? Have a box with his face all over. It'd be awesome. Yeah, it's a winning idea. Get to it, Mo. Get to it, Cardinals. And another thing that's made me think of with Nootbaar doing so well in Japan and batting leadoff, I know we have this idea with the Cardinals that Edman should be the leadoff guy, but what if Edman doesn't bat leadoff? He hasn't really excelled in the leadoff role over the years. He hasn't done all that good as leadoff guy. So what if Newt stays at the top? You put Edman, switch hitter, have him bat second, then Goldie, Arenado, Contreras, O'Neill, Jordan Walker, Dylan Carlson, and then Brendan Donovan. Just throwing it out there. All right, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to our guys Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Cardinals back on the field tomorrow. They'll be facing the Marlins. Steven Matz is your scheduled starting pitcher. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe, comment on YouTube, help that channel grow. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and I will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.